What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the performance of our car that's listed on the Getaround platform, and we're going to be answering the question of, is Getaround better than Turo? So this is our 2009 Scion, and it's been listed on the Getaround platform since June. It is our only car that is listed on Getaround.
Now, though it's been listed since June, it was out for about 2 weeks whenever it had its fender bender. But we've had it in total for about 9 to 10 weeks.
If you guys are interested in learning about that fender bender and how we got it fixed, because it is a big piece of this Getaround puzzle that we'll be talking about in this video, we will include a link to that down in the description below. But before we can dig into the performance of this car, let's first dig into some of the details of Getaround and some of the pros and cons that we've found so far with Getaround.
The really big pro of Getaround is that it is extremely passive when compared to Turo. We don't have to message renters, and we don't even have to be there or get the vehicle ready and prepped for the remote drop-off, because we only really have to check on this vehicle once every week. It's really easy. Compared to Turo, where you have to check in the vehicle once every 24 hours before the rental starts.
So the passiveness of Getaround is hands down the biggest pro. I mean, the reality is we've had this car on Getaround for a few months, and it really hasn't added any extra work to our plate at all, which has been incredibly nice. But the passiveness is sort of a double-edged sword, and that comes to one of the biggest cons, which is the lack of control associated with our car on Getaround. You see, on Turo, we can control the pricing, we can control the discounts, we can control the pickup process, the drop-off process, the communication with the guest. Everything is controlled by us, which is really, really nice. Whereas Getaround, on the other hand, is controlled 100% by Getaround. We don't have a say in how much the car is priced at. We don't really have any communication with the guest. We don't have any control of anything. Basically, the only thing that we can control with Getaround is when the car is actually available to rent.
Now, for anybody that wasn't really experienced or versed in car sharing, it would be great because it's simply a plug and play. You have a vehicle and it's listed. For people like Aubrey and I, who are way more versed and have experience on car sharing platforms, it's not good to not have control, to be able to price our vehicles a specific way or control some of that process that Getaround does for you. And because of that, the lack of control can be viewed as a pro, but it really is a big con to us.
So then that brings us to the point of this video, which is how this car has actually performed on Getaround. So whenever we're talking about the performance of Getaround, I think that there are two key things to take into account. We have our utilization rate, and then we have the money that we're actually making from the car itself.
And utilization rate is what percentage of the days the vehicle is actually booked and being utilized,
while the amount of money that you're making is the actual income that the car is bringing in. Now with Turo, the utilization rate is directly tied to the amount of money that you make off of that car. The higher the utilization rate, the more money you make. But with Getaround, at least in our experience so far, that isn't really the case.
Now with Getaround, our car has actually been pretty disappointing. The utilization rate's about 25%, whereas compared to Turo, it's like 80 to 90% utilization rate.
Which means that our car is sitting the vast majority of the time. Now, it did pretty decent in June, it did okay in July, but in August, we were only out for like maybe 5 days of the entire month. And so far in September, we have not gone out on a single rental. And so with the low utilization rate now brings us into the topic of how much this car has actually made. And I think that the number is going to surprise you. So the month of June, this car earned $1,796.09. And the breakdown of this month included $350 in rental income. It included $39.32 in adjustments, and an adjustment for Getaround is things like overage miles, things like gas reimbursements, things like that. And then the biggest ticket item for the month of June was an accident that this car was in. Now, we mentioned that earlier, but this accident was a huge payday for us. Now, this car was in a fender bender. Basically what happened, the guest was driving, somebody hit him, and then the fender needed to be replaced. Now, the fender cost us about $100 to replace, and we ended up getting paid out $1,404 for the repair of that fender, which brings the grand total for June $1,796.
Now July is a little bit different than June because we didn't have that cool payday of another fender bender in July. So we got right about $500 of rental income with some reimbursements of about $24.51, and then a cash bonus for the summer of $235.50 for Getaround, which totals right about $755.04 for the entire month of July.
Now then that brings us to August, which brings us to another con of the Getaround platform that I personally do not like, and that is the fact that Getaround only pays you out once per month. So we're sitting here in September today, but we still don't know the exact numbers of what we earned in August because of the fact that they only do their payouts once per month. And at the beginning of each month, they tally out how much they owed you for the previous month, which means that until they pay you out, it's really unclear exactly how much you're going to get paid. I absolutely hate this feature. It's very difficult when it comes to creating your P&Ls for each month. It's very difficult for financial planning. I absolutely hate it. And so we actually don't know how much we made in August, but if I had to guess, I would guess probably about $300 to $400.
So that makes the grand total this vehicle has earned on Getaround to $2,551.
Now overall, that is a number that we have to be pretty happy with given the fact that this car cost about $5,000. So we have earned half of our money back from this vehicle in just 2 months worth of earnings. But there are some very big caveats to this. Number one is the fact that we had an accident in June.
And we can't count on this vehicle having an accident every month, and we really don't want this vehicle to get in an accident every month.
Accidents are big bonuses because they do give us a big payday, but the problem is they do devalue the car, they do make the car look worse, and they're just difficult to deal with. And so as much as we like to get that big paycheck, we don't want to have an accident on our car every single month. It simply isn't worth it in the long run.
And on top of that, there's bonuses that Getaround has been putting out, incentives for us to be renting out this vehicle, but they're gonna stop doing incentives every single month and paying us that extra $200.
100%. I mean, these bonuses that we're getting, the check from getting the car wrecked, this has made a substantial amount of the total income that this car has made over the summer, and these are all going to be ending very, very soon. In fact, the bonus that HP just mentioned is a summer bonus exclusively, which means once we go into fall, this bonus will no longer be a part of the picture. Now, overall, when it comes to our thoughts on Getaround, though I'm happy with the amount of money that this car has made, I am quite honestly a bit disappointed with the utilization of the car. It is sitting the vast majority of the time, and there is nothing that I hate more than driving past our parking lot and seeing this car sitting here once again.
But with that being said, as the year kind of progresses, Getaround's going to become more popular because we are actually the pioneers for Getaround in the DFW market. It's fairly new and it's not well known like Turo is. So with other states and other people traveling in and using Getaround in their own states, I have some high hopes that this is actually going to improve over the course of this year.
And HB's point is the exact reason as to why we are sticking it out with Getaround, even with the low utilization rate. We do think that as Getaround gets more popular, our car will begin getting booked more often. And so because of that, we will be keeping this car on the Getaround platform, but we will not be expanding our Getaround fleet at all until the notoriety, until the brand awareness around Getaround becomes a bit more significant. But with that being said, you guys, we will be updating y'all how this car continues to perform on Getaround as the year progresses, so make sure to stay tuned if Getaround is a platform that you've been curious about.
As always, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.